Hi, welcome back to our final episode, Anyone Can Paint, for this painting. We're going to pick right up where we left off last week. You recall we were putting in some of the highlights to kind of bring out some of the undulations and little mounds and things that are in the snow. We're going to finish that out on this side, going to jump over to this side and work on that. Then we'll incorporate some of this color into our river. So we were using some white and a little bit of red. And I'm using the medium flat bristle brush. And recall that we're doing a dry brush technique. Is where if you got it loaded on your brush, you want to wipe some of that out of your brush. Then you want to hold it, kind of like the Statue of Liberty holds the torch. And with a little bit of paint, you come up and you start establishing the top of a little undulation or a little bit of a mound. And then you just kind of work this in. Now you can hear the scrubbing, hopefully. And you just want to work that in, still allowing some of the underpainting to show through. And I'm going to put a little bit more up here because this is up in the foreground area where there's going to be a little bit more detail. I'm going to grab a little bit of paint and I'll be right back up. But you can see how I'm not covering up all the underpainting. You need to have those in there, those little shadows and things that happen. I'm going to reload and I'm going to switch over to the opposite side. And we'll start putting little indications of some little hills that are back there. Again, you want to emphasize the top of the hill and then just kind of softly work it into the hill itself. Now back here it's not going to be very strong because it's further away. But just give a little bit of an indication. I'm going to reload again, and I'll be right back up. Just again getting some white, adding a little bit of red to it. I think here we'll have a pretty good size one here. Again, I've established the top of that, so now I'm just coming in and working that color down into the hill itself. I'm going to grab a little bit more paint, just do a little bit more emphasizing right there, but not a whole lot more. And it just kind of fades out. You can also see too how if you angle that, you'll get that feeling that it kind of slopes down towards the river. Same with right here. Remember how the highlighting will always help indicate the size, the shape, the angle, or the movement of an object. So this is how you can make that appear to be however you would like that to make. I mean, if you want that to be fairly straight across, then you just don't angle your strokes that way. You kind of level them out a little bit more. I'm just making up another little batch of this, and we're going to go right back up and continue on. Remember, as you're going back, that these want to become naturally a little bit smaller. Just wherever you want to indicate a little bit of a change in elevation. There's a little bit of humps or whatever. I'm going to grab a little bit more, be right back up. I'm going to go back in and touch. This is a little bit different color, a little bit brighter, so I'm going to take advantage of that and go over what we did last week just a little bit. Remember that acrylics dry a little bit darker, so sometimes when you first put it on, it seems pretty bright, and then after you allow it to dry, kind of will darken up a little bit. So sometimes you may have to hit lights a little bit more often than maybe a couple times. Again, you always want to put it on the top, and then you can soften it down. There. Now we got that color. I'm going to incorporate this color into our river, just because it would pick up some of that. I mean, if the snow's reflecting that color, obviously the river would be too. Remember, we want to stay on our horizontal strokes as we're coming through here. And this is just to kind of accent the highlights. Just kind of make them a little bit brighter here and there. I'm going to grab a little bit more paint. I'll be right back up. But you really want to scrub that in, so you're just really just moving a small amount of paint just to get some indications. Like obviously right here is a lot brighter, it's a little bit thicker paint. Down here is where I was just kind of scrubbing here and there, and you can see where you get a nice little contrast between some lights and some mediums and some darks. Just makes it look a little bit more three-dimensionalized. So just don't feel like you got to put this on really super thick. It only really takes a little bit to suggest little humps and bumps and little mounds. We're going to clean that brush out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in a row of fence line that's going to come here, and we'll also put some across this other side. So maybe this entire area is fenced in, and maybe that's where the animals are, however you want to interpret that. This is going to be done with some blue and some brown, and we're staying with the same medium flat bristle brush. And this is going to be a dark color. Remember, this is the color that I often use for black, and depending on how dark you want to mix this, you're going to continue to put more blue into this color. So whatever you feel is the right color for you. If you'd rather it be on the brown side, obviously more brown goes into it, but whatever you're comfortable with. Remember to get your brush to a chiseled edge, and last week we talked about that, is when you put your brush right into the paint, you pull it through, turn it over, stick it in the paint, pull it through again, and that forces the paint to go to the end of your bristles, and you get that nice sharp edge to work with. And we're going to come back up to the canvas, and we're going to put a post in right about there. Remember that these are going to be closer, so these need to have more detail to them than what those were back there. And if you want to angle some once in a while, I mean, that's perfectly fine, like they're starting to fall over a bit. But I'm going to have this sitting right behind this little hump right here. And what you can do is you're going to actually end up painting over that, obviously, but you can rub it out with your finger, or we can go, which we probably will do, we'll just re-highlight that to really push those back a bit. Maybe we'll stick one in there. I'm just going to reload, be right back up. Chiseled edge again. Maybe one sticks in like that. Again, you can just soften the bottom. I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to do basically the same thing. I'll stick one right in there. And I'm just going to use that little hump, much like we did there, to kind of push those back a little bit. I'm just going to reload, be right back again. Maybe just put one more in here. But don't make these posts perfect. All right, let's go ahead and clean out our brush. Now while we've still got that color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the liner brush, and we're going to put a couple strands of barbed wire that kind of goes, that connects to that. So this is going to be the liner brush. You want to get some water in there. We're going to go right into that dark color like we did just a minute ago. Same color combination, blue and brown. Remember that you get your brush into that, turn it and twist it into that paint, then pull it out and get a nice little edge to it. Then we're going to come up to the canvas. And starting here, I'm not going to put barbed wire across the river, although you probably could. And here, because it's a little bit closer, I want to have a little bit more indication. You know how barbed wire never really is straight unless you first put it up, but then it kind of gets bent and crooked. How you do that is just start here at your post, and kind of twist and turn your brush a little bit, and just allow this just to be regular kind of a shape. And I'm going to reload and be right back up. Maybe we'll put in a few strands here. I'm going to do one more. And if you have a shaky hand, you'll do the most perfect barbed wire that you've ever seen. I know some of my students kind of suffer from that, and this is one of those things where having a little bit of a shaky hand is not really a bad thing. You may have an advantage over some of the folks that don't have that. Again, just nice and bend it. I'm going to do one more strand over there. There, just like that. Then we'll go ahead and clean out our brush. Now, while I'm letting that dry, we're going to go through and we'll put some snow on the top of the post, maybe a little bit on top of the wire. I want to put in some little strands of weeds that are kind of growing in and out of the snow, because you often will find that happen. You can grab whatever size brush you want. If you want to use your small one, we just need to mix up some paint. This is going to be a color that's very similar to our bushes that are in the back, and this was some yellow ochre and a little bit of burnt sienna. And just kind of blend those together. And you don't have to blend them so it's one flat color. You can leave it pretty roughly blended. And then I'm going to clean that brush out. And then staying with the liner brush, show you how we can just pop some weeds in and around different places within the painting. So again, the liner brush is cleaned from the color that we had used before. Remember to get some water into this new color with this burnt sienna yellow ochre mixture we have. Remember to get it kind of juicy. And then you twist and turn your brush in there, and you pull it out so all that works down to the end and gets a sharp little point on it. So now where you want to go is just wherever you want to pull some of these up. And for example, a really nice spot is oftentimes is where you have like a mound, and it's right there, so these go up against that dark and kind of gives you a little bit of contrast. And that's just sticking it in there and just kind of just lightly pulling them up, and you can have them coming in different directions if you'd like. And just kind of pop a few of these up, just like these are ones that are just kind of sticking out. Let's have some up here. If you keep your brush moving, that's how you can get these little individual ones that seem to just kind of stick up through the snow, and where other ones maybe got trampled down or whatever, but you got a couple of them that are just kind of sticking up. And we'll put some over in here. And again, you can put as many or as few in here as you'd like to. It's totally up to you, obviously. It's kind of nice. It breaks up all this, the light blue color and some of the highlights. And just puts a little bit more detail, more dimension to your painting. Again, just wherever you want to indicate some of these. Obviously, as you go back, you want to make them a little bit smaller. You can change directions. You can make them different heights. Make some kind of leaning over. And now I'm going to reload, and I'm going to go over to the other side. We'll put a few more in there and sprinkle a few more out and around. Again, just wherever you want to give an indication, just remember back here you want these to be really small, because you're not going to see a whole lot of those, and not much of them. Alrighty, let's go ahead and clean that brush out. Now if you want to go back to your small flat bristle brush, and again this is to mix a color, you can use your medium, whatever you would like to do. We're going to make some white with a little bit of pink in it, and we're going to put some indications of some snow that are on top of the post and some that are on top of the strands of the wire. So this is going to be some white and a little bit of red. Remember, this is going to be primarily white because, as we spoke about a couple weeks ago, lights get brighter as they get closer. So get that one cleaned out. And again, we're going to go back to our liner brush. And we want to get that color all wet. And twist and turn your brush in there, and then pull it out to a point. Then we're going to come up and we're going to put a little indication of some snow that's up there. And how you can make this look like it's some thick snow is kind of work, and just don't put like a little dot up there. If you kind of build up a little bit of this, it looks like there's a nice little accumulation of snow on the tops of those. And you can see I'm just come up and just kind of dabbing. I'm going to put a little bit more white in that and reload the brush, and I'll be right back up. And don't put this on perfect. Again, you know how snow kind of it forms, and it kind of looks like it's leaning sometimes. And there's more of it on one side than the other. Now what we're going to do is take that same color, and we're going to kind of go up over top of these strands of weeds here. And it's kind of nice if you can get it to be a little bit brighter than what that snow highlight is, so it kind of stands up against that. Now here's what you can do, is where the barbed wire comes across, you can put a couple indications so it looks like there's some couple strands that are, or that strand is wrapped around the post a little bit, and that's kind of collected a little bit of snow. But just kind of follow whatever the shape that you have for your wire. And again, just really lightly kind of go across there again, so it looks like there's some wrapping of that wire around the post. And we're just going to continue on. I'm going to reload. I'll be right back. Again, a couple indications of some wraparound on the post. Again, just kind of follow the contour that you have for the wire. I'm going to reload and we'll finish up that side. And we're going to jump over. I need to make a little bit more of this color. I got too much red. So just add some white. Remember to water it down a little bit. Then we'll come over here and do the same thing on this top edge. Oops, kind of smudged it there. Get wrap a little bit more. Again, just some indications that it looks like it's got wrapped around there. Follow that right on down to the next. And we'll wrap that around there a couple times. And that's really all you have to do. Then you can clean out that brush. Now, because the sunlight is coming back from behind the mountains, we need to put a cast shadow on these posts. So how we're going to do that is you're going to get your small flat bristle brush, and then we're going to make up a shadow color. Now, natural shadow color's got blue in it. And because it's snow, we're going to have some white. You can incorporate a little bit of that color we just used for the highlighting on the post and on the wire, and then you want some blue in that. And ideally, you want this blue to be a little bit darker than what you have as your underpainting color. And again, this one will be one of those things you're going to have to test this out and check this out. Once you've got that on your brush, again, you want to wipe some of that out. And then you've got to determine what is the angle going to be on your fence post. So if we say that a light source is back in here, maybe that's where our brightest spot is. what you want to do is you want to follow that angle from your light source. So this is going to be done with horizontal scrubs, and I'm just barely touching the canvas. But you can see how that's on an angle. And when you put that in, it really brightens up your highlights. So you want to be consistent. So now this one casts a shadow, but I'm still doing this using horizontal strokes because this shadow is kind of laying flat on there. And that goes like that. Just kind of comes out. Just kind of keep following your angles, and you're just lightly scrubbing. And it kind of goes in between those weeds there. And see how it looks like the sun's really zinging through there now because you've got those shadows in there. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side. You can reload, wipe some of that off. And again, you're holding your brush like the Statue of Liberty holds her torch. And you're just doing very short, real tight horizontal scrubs. And the length of the shadow is going to be totally up to you because it all depends on the angle of the sun. If the sun was up really high, that shadow becomes shorter. The lower that gets, the longer that becomes. So it's not going to be right or wrong. It's just you just want to be consistent as you're doing this, so that they're all generally appropriate. So this one you wouldn't want to make that thing down to here with those being a little bit shorter, unless that post was very tall. And see, I'm taking this. I'm going to darken this up just a little bit. You take that right up underneath your post. In fact, I need a little bit darker yet because it's really close to what that underpainting color is. It kind of is blending in. That's a little bit better. Just like that. All right, let's go ahead and clean that out. Now if you want to indicate some birds up in the sky, you can do this a number of different ways. If you don't have any smaller brushes like a liner brush, you can always use like an ink pen, or you can use an ultra fine tip Sharpie that's got that metal point on it. That way you don't have to worry about pushing too hard. A felt tip, if you push too hard, it kind of will blob up on you. But you can use any of those things, or you can even just use paint if you'd like. This is going to be just a dark color, and I still have some of that we made the post. I'm just adding a little bit of blue to this. And again, you want to kind of make this a little on the juicy side. And you're going to load your brush just like what we've been doing. And you can make the indication of some birds that are up in the sky. Now, how you can really get away with this, and how making like a lot of them, is that you want to make them of different sizes. So ones that would appear to be further back, obviously, are going to be very small. So, for example, all you got to do is really kind of put in a very lazy kind of V, for example. If you change your directions once in a while, you can even change the size that you're doing. And you can make very small ones look like they're further back, just a small indication. You have some that are shaped more like this. And you can put as many or as few as you want up there. These always tend to help with painting. There's a little bit of life to it. But again, you can do whatever you like to do in your approach, whether you want to use... Nice thing, too, is if you don't like what you just did, you just wipe it off with your finger. Then you can go back in and do a new one. But you can put just like a whole flock of these up here if you want. And it's really one of those cure-alls that if you ever do a painting and you get all done, you're like, I'm just not quite sure if it needs something else. Just indicate some birds in the sky, and it just really adds a little bit of life to your painting. It's just really amazing. I'm going to clean that brush out. And we've got a few minutes. I want to go back and touch up the roof that's on those buildings back there, because remember when I first did that and put the highlights on it, it did pick up some of the brown that was underneath this. So this is going to be some white, and we can just borrow a little bit of the blue that's here. And we're just going to go up and just kind of reestablish this color and get that brown out of there. Probably should put a little bit of an indication of shadow from that chimney too. So I'm going to grab more of that brown that we used when we did the fence post. And just I'm kind of turning it so it's on the side of the brush just so I can get a smaller stroke. and just indicate a little bit of a shadow from your chimney. And now is where you kind of got everything in place, and now you can go back and brighten some areas up or darken some areas up if you want to. I think on this side I'm going to put a few more brighter highlights. So I'm going to use that white and a little bit of red. And again, after you got that on your brush, you want to wipe some of it out and just very sparingly come through here and just brighten some of this up, if you feel yours needs brightening. Now remember, you can always soften this up with your finger, just like that, but you don't want to touch the tops. You want to leave those fairly bright. Where you want to soften it up is in the bottom. You can see how it just kind of like goes right into your background. And again, maybe you don't feel like yours needs to be, I kind of call this accent highlighting, where you're kind of just making what you got just a little bit brighter in some spots. Maybe it can use a little bit more of a zip to it. I'm just getting some more paint, and I'm going to come on this side and just kind of brighten this side up just a little bit here and there. And this is one of those good spots where you stand back, take a look at your painting. You can see how well balanced it is. If you've got too much bright on one side, you may want to brighten up the other, or maybe you even feel like you should darken up one side a little bit maybe. Or maybe it got too bright. Alrighty, I think that's as far as we're going to get on this one. I hope you try this one out. I think you're going to like it. I mean, it's a really good chance to do a winter scene, and you don't use a whole bunch of white for snow like you typically would think. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to visit my website if you have any questions or anything. There's plenty of ways of getting a hold of me. I want you to try this. You can do this, I promise you.